Hello. Happy Christmas Eve. All right, I got a million things to do, but I have to drink my tea anyway, so I thought I might as well sit down and read. Oh, this day is going to be chaotic. I mean, isn't it always? Okay, I just had to toss something over there. Now, here's the thing. So yesterday I uploaded a Silver Screen Holidays, and I got I was blocked because copyright. It's It's a public, I'm tired, domain film. Anyway, it blocked it. And then I tried to do like a thing and it's like, it's going to be 48 hours. Apparently NBC Universal took exception. So anyway, that went down the pot. All that for nothing. So I'm trying again today with a different film, and oh my gosh, I hope it goes up. I'm a little concerned. And then a place online where I download some of the public domain films is offline. Chaos. Anyway, so if worst comes to worst and I can't post, like if every single thing that I've done, they don't let it through, I'll just come on and read. You know what? Because listen, Christmas morning, my man's going to be sleeping in till God knows when. Like he can sleep and sleep and sleep. So I wake up early. So what I'll just do is I'll just toddle myself on out and read. So no skin off my nose. I just hate it though when I have something planned and it all goes to pot. Anyway. We'll make up for it somehow. Drive me bananas. Okay. Yesterday, well, people just remember that you need to eat while you're doing things because I didn't eat properly yesterday and I was spitting bullets by the time the day was over. And my poor man, he's the one who had to suffer. And I made this big list of why this HR girl is inappropriate and I don't like her. And I made him sit in the car and listen to it. I was like, no. And he'd be like, and I'm like, no, I'm not done. And I'd be like, furthermore, it makes me very uncomfortable. And then he was like, do you need to eat? And I'm like, yeah, I do. So anyway, he took me to McDonald's for chicken nuggets, and then I sat in the parking lot and cried while I ate them. I was just so overwrought. Oh my gosh, I was just crying, and he's like, "Oh, oh dear, oh no." So anyway, bless him. Pray for him. So now what else? Yes, I did get some things done, not nearly as much because if I can be perfectly honest, I got a few things went down yesterday and I got so discouraged, I just took to the bed. I was like, you know what? Maybe a nap will solve it. It didn't. I should have known better. You know, I should have just powered through, but no, I just caved in yesterday. And now I must suffer for it today. But no matter. These things happen. And we're just going to keep going, right? It's already 8:30. Oh, my Lord. Can you imagine? 8:30 and I got to be somewhere by 12. I hate this. Oh, anyway, I'm about to get miserable. Well, where I'm going, I'm staying for like an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, and then I'm telling them, I got to go. I can't do this. Anyway, never mind. I'm not going to go there. That was going to be too negative. All right. Let's see. You know what? Let's forego the royals at the moment because the chapters are quite long. And once I get in, I just want to read them. Let's go back to my story because I can read a chapter in about 20 minutes. All right. What did we read last time? Oh, we read about, we might get through 2 chapters. So she was talking about, like, their marriage fell apart, and then she started up her business. And then she decided she wants to learn to play polo. Yeehaw. All right. Well, chapter 4 is entitled, you know what? I don't think that she intends to poke fun at herself. Like, I don't think that she's that subtle. I don't know that she intends to be, like, I think she's just being very sincere. Just from the way, just because she always has to spell everything out. So I really think that the comedy is unintentional because she always has to be like, I'm very smart. Men always feel protective of me. She just always has to, like, lay it on the line. She doesn't allow anything to, she doesn't allow any sort of phrasing to tell the story. She has to tell us directly. So that's why I think that the comedy is unintentional. Anyone who, this lady in my dad's church, we call her Auntie. She is just, listen, she's Jamaican, and whenever I go visit, she makes me saltfish and ackee. That is my favorite Jamaican dish. Like, it is, oh my, and the dumplings, Lord have mercy. I just love it. I wish I was there right now. I think that's part of the reason I was crying yesterday is because I'm normally home. But anyway, things happen. Anyway, and one time she said, Pastor, if someone got to be telling you how smart they are all the time, just makes me wonder. And that's how I feel. What are you eating, Mr. Man? Paper? All right. Well, and that's how I feel about this book, is that she's always like, I'm very smart. Everyone tells me that I'm the smartest person they ever met. And I'm beautiful. And I have exquisite taste. And men want to protect me. So I'm just like, really? Okay. All right. So what? All that to say, the chapter is entitled "Saddling Up," but I don't think she means any double entendre. I think she's too straightforward. All right, let's go. It's like golf, said Bob, my instructor. He was tall and young and extremely good-looking. The same kind of swing, if you follow me. From the heights of my saddle on top of a blessedly docile pony, I nodded uncertainly. In my gloved hand, the mallet, with its enormous handle, felt unwieldy, and I found it desperately hard to swing it at all, let alone emulate Arnold Palmer. The green fields of Epsom Downs stretched away on either side of the ground, as I was shown the rudiments of a sport that up to then had meant no more to me than a few glossy photographs in society magazines. But as I became more involved, I grew to understand the subtleties of the game, and ultimately I would find myself addicted to the almost feudal atmosphere, as well as to the sheer bloodlust excitement of the oldest equestrian sport in the world. For now I had to learn to ride a sturdy, short-legged polo pony fast, avoid hitting it on the flanks or tripping it up with my stick, as the mallet is called, and generally point it accurately in the direction in which I wanted it to go. Most of it is confidence, said Bob encouragingly. When you swing, you can do it forwards and backwards, but be careful not to let the stick go in front of your mount. You'll find you ache above the elbows, but that will soon pass. Above all, protect the horse. That means no crossing in front of the other riders at certain angles. That will cost you penalties, as well as being dangerous. He smiled. Don't worry, you'll find the ponies know what they're doing. I learned polo dress code. Always wear brown boots, never black, white breeches, and a shirt in your team's colors. In those early days, I thought, you've got to be a little mad to play this game, and some of the characters I met later would serve to confirm this view. But it only took me one game on the field of battle to proclaim, lead me to the asylum. I played at back, the weakest player's position, and I loved every fantastic minute of it. Bruises? I lost count. I fell off so many times I probably spent more time getting back onto my poor patient pony than I did in the saddle. It didn't matter. When you're learning to ride, you worry about falling off. But when you learn to play polo, all you worry about is hitting that small white ball. There is another unwritten rule of polo lore. Beware of the groupies, or polo bimbettes, who follow the macho cowboys around the circuits, just as they do in tennis, motor racing, and other great sporting arenas. In this most elitist of sports, the lure is the irresistible combination of looks and money, coupled with the royal stamp of approval. And that's the other thing that I've noticed, that she's always finding a way to separate herself from other women. She's always finding a way. Even her friend, when they did the port contest, she's like, oh, poor Debbie. She didn't have what it takes. I was the only woman who had what it took. She's not a girl's girl. She's just always trying to find ways. So here she goes out of her way to say, beware of polo bimbettes. Well, she certainly didn't have to worry about polo bimbettes because she's a chick, She's not one of these big, strapping, gorgeous, royal adjacent men that these bimbettes, are following around. But she, had to make a point. She's not like other girls, guys, don't forget. Wasn't it Debbie Aldridge I recalled hearing in one episode of the long-running Archer's radio soap? I thought polo players were either Prince Charles or sexy Argentinians with flaring nostrils. She and her scriptwriters weren't the only ones who think that way. This notion does little to help the women who are trying to take the sport seriously, and who have had to overcome a patronizing attitude in what has always been considered a strictly male domain. As Claire Tomlinson, the highly respected captain of the English women's team, put it, we are tolerated, just about. But the Epsom Club members were friendly and welcoming. In the clubhouse before my first lesson, Bob had explained some of the mysteries of the sport, the rules for a start. Okay, I'm sorry. Up to then, all I knew about a chuka was that it sounded like a game you found on a seaside pier on a wet bank holiday. Bob made it as simple as possible. The game consists of 6 chukas lasting 7 minutes each, okay? There are 4 players in each game, 1 forward at number 1, 2 midfield numbers 2 and 3, and a back at number 4. I had already noted the numbers on the jerseys of the riders cantering around outside. Now comes the complicated bit, Bob grinned, then went on. Every player is rated according to his or her ability, and given a handicap which is reassessed twice a year by their club committee. These range from -2 for a beginner to a maximum of +10 for the top players. We call it a high goal polo, which means that the total handicap of the team in a tournament must be between 17 and 22 in Britain. In the States, it's 17 and 26, but don't ask me why. Are you with me so far? I think so, I said. You'll learn. Now, you'll also get medium and low goal games, and that's about it for now. By July, I had played in 3 mixed friendly matches. In the clubhouse, quickly making new friends, I realized I had entered another world. Perhaps my Rolls Royce helped. And people were openly curious about its owner. What had Jim said? Your business card. How right he was. In July, I found I had enough money to fly to California for a holiday, and I was able to stay with friends in Beverly Hills. One of my newfound polo chums gave me some names to look up, in particular a circuit player affectionately known as Big Boy. Big Boy turned out to be a gentle giant of a man, with an open nature and an instant invitation to spend Sunday at the Santa Barbara Polo Club, an hour's drive up the coast from Los Angeles. He and his girlfriend Liz collected me in a large white Buick, the kind you see in old Warner Brothers gangster movies, and we roared off north up Highway 1. The Polo Club was like a miniature village, heavily guarded with steel fencing and ultra-exclusive. The July sun was like a blast furnace, hot and dry, and I could hear the shrieks as we swung in through the gates, saluted by a uniformed guard. Girlish squeals filled the air, backed up by the rumble of hooves. Big Boy had reserved a table for Sunday brunch, a barbecue which began at 11 a.m. on the clubhouse patio, overlooking the greensward of the pitches. From our table, as we sipped dry white wine from the Napa Valley, I could see the surge of combat on the field, and I sat up sharply. It was an all-female game. The screams were coming as much from the field as from the dozens of spectators on the outfield, many of whom seemed to be husbands or boyfriends. "What do you think?" Liz had seen the expression on my face. What a difference from the tight old boy network atmosphere back home. "I'd love to meet some of those ladies," I said. "No problem. They'll be up here after the game." We chatted about polo. Big Boy said, Sylvester Stallone comes here to play. He's hooked on the game. He usually reserves a table for 12 people every Sunday, whether or not he shows up. We don't get too many Britishers out here. But there's one guy in particular who drops by, Major Ron Ferguson. Do you know him?" "Of course. I'd heard of Prince Charles's polo manager. That is, I know of him. I've never met him." "He sure knows his polo," said Big Boy. "He's very pro-American and a great organizer." I had heard the Major's name mentioned more than once at Epsom, usually cropping up in connection with international or charity events. I was getting more than a hint of the power which the Duchess of York's father wielded in the polo world, a world that respected him probably more than any single individual for his knowledge and authority in a game to which he had devoted most of his life. But for now, all I wanted to do was talk to these strong, athletic, outgoing women who were out there in the field like equestrian Amazons, putting everything they'd got into their game with such total commitment. My chance came after lunch. Big Boy knew them all and was only too happy to introduce me to the players as they relaxed on the patio after a grueling match. "Hey," said Jessie, one of the captains, "you want a game sometime?" "I'm not sure I'm good enough," I protested. "Nonsense," she said with a smile that was dazzling white against her all-year-round tan. We all have standards here, and we'll treat you gently. Don't you worry." There was gentle laughter at my expense, but I didn't mind, not one bit. I felt at home among these ladies of the turf. Soon we were discussing the all-male domain of polo, and one of them asked, "Are we Americans very different from you guys over in Europe?" By guys, I presumed she meant women. "There is a world of difference in your attitude," I said, gesturing around at the menfolk who were busy stocking up at the barbecue with their families. "But I reckon our ladies could give you a run for your money if you came over." "Why don't you organize it?" asked Jessie suddenly. There was a silence while I digested the thought. My mind darted around the possibilities like quicksilver. Sorry. Jessie was saying, "The men's teams get sponsored. That's all you need. You've got to cover the cost of the ponies, hotels, travel, and maybe some spending money expenses for the teams. If you got 12 teams together from different countries, all you would need would be 12 sponsors, and I tell you, we'll be there." "Yes," I thought. "Why not?" Aloud, I said, "I think it's a great idea. Leave it to me. I'll be in touch." I don't know why she annoys me. All right, Chapter 5. Major Ron. Why polo? Good question. Why indeed? I must have asked myself that question 1,000 times as the weeks dragged on. And I found myself getting nowhere in my efforts to launch the first ever international ladies polo tournament. In her steamy bestseller, Polo, Jilly Cooper described the blood, sweat, and tears and guts on the equine field of battle, as well as the intrigue of it, in a way that brought a hitherto little-known pastime into living rooms across the land. I want to read that. I had learned to ride from the age of 3, when I was the kind of little girl you would find in one of those Thewell cartoons, riding a pony around the country lanes of Berkshire and later Surrey. But polo? Like so many people I had always seen, it merely was a sport for an elitist enclave of the idle rich, a snob sport where breeding, both in human and horsey terms, counted for everything. It has been called the sport of prestige and pleasure, and it is probably still incomprehensible to most average citizens. I had had visions of a privileged few hooray Henrys galloping around a pitch, waving those long-handled mallets at one another before repairing to the nearest tent to quaff champagne by the bucketful. It isn't quite like that. I played regularly throughout the long, hot summer while I searched for sponsors and tried to drum up interest in a project that was starting to look just too ambitious to get off the ground. And I learned the hard way that polo is no game for wimps. Any idea that it was a happy hunting ground for chinless wonders would be quickly dispelled with the first thud of that hard white ball smacking into a horse's rump, and often its rider too. I obtained a list of all the polo clubs in the country and wrote, phoned, or faxed every one of them. No real joy. I thumbed through the pages of glossy magazines and noted the big advertisers, who surely had money to spend. Then I wrote off to them, too. Dunhill, Cartier, Porsche, BMW, Davidoff, Jack Barclay, Estee Lauder Cosmetics, British Petroleum. Result: nothing. My one success was an enthusiastic response from the Save the Children Fund, a worthy charity I had chosen as potential beneficiaries of the big event. But everywhere I went, in clubhouses and polo grounds, one name was constantly mentioned: Major Ronald Ferguson. I became intrigued and did a spot of homework. The Major had joined the Guards Polo Club in 1955 as a young soldier and had risen through the ranks to become deputy chairman, a post he held for 8 years. His awesome presence and knowledge of the game helped put polo on the public map. The Major's royal connections as Prince Charles's polo manager for 15 years and as a former commander of the Sovereign's escort turned the arid turf of what to many was a rather tedious sport into rich weekend pickings for thousands of royal spotters. The result was a queue of eager sponsors waving their wallets in the Major's direction and a massive increase of spectators. I also liked the Major's own attitude to the sport, an all-consuming enthusiasm like that of a religious zealot. "It's the nearest thing to a cavalry charge," he was to say to me later, "and where else can you do that today?" Here, without a doubt, was the best man to help me. I had already written to the Royal County of Berkshire Polo Club, where he was the director of sponsorships, doing everything to create the right impression, just as my courses in business psychology had taught me. Most of it was common sense anyway, but as Dale Carnegie put it, dealing with people in everyday business is a fine art. The stationery, folders, and letterheading had cost a small fortune, but I reckoned would be worth every penny. Your clients literally read "you" from your notepaper, was one injunction, but even so, the overall response from around the country had been poor. Now I picked up the phone and dialed the number to request a personal appointment. To my surprise, it was arranged on the spot. A woman's voice at the other end, pleasant and encouraging, suggested Friday, 9 November at noon. Would that be convenient? Wow, would it? The least I could do to get along with Major Ferguson was to know something about the sport for which I was asking his help. I discovered that polo was far older than I could possibly have imagined. It dates back to 600 BC and beyond, with its origins traced to Persia. A poet named Ferdowsi described a game played around that time between the Persians and the Turkomans. In Iran, you can see the remains of 2 stone goalposts on the ground 300 yards long, the same size as a polo pitch, at the historic site of Isfahan. The game spread to Turkey and on to Afghanistan, where a form of it was played not with a ball, but with a decapitated human head in a sack, which had to be dropped in a bullseye circle at the center of the pitch. That would bring the crowds in today, I thought, when I stumbled on this historical gem, on to Tibet, Kashmir, and Bengal, which is where it got its British Raj image several centuries later, when it became the chief sport of... Oh, he loves to get on my bookshelf and pull out my little cooking magazines. Timmy, of course. Which is where it got its British Raj image centuries later, when it became the chief sport of the tea planters and, of course, the military. Records show that in 1859, the Silkar Polo Club was founded by cavalry officers and planters. Word went out, and 3 years later, the famous Calcutta Polo Club was formed. The 10th Royal Hussars are credited with bringing the game to Britain after the Indian Mutiny at Lucknow. It seems that when they first heard about it, they experimented by hitting a ball with walking sticks. Today's rules were drawn up by a Captain John Watson, an officer in the 13th Hussars. After a pitch was laid out in 1876 at Hurlingham in southwest London, a club today better known for its pre-Wimbledon tennis tournament. Captain Watson can take credit for changing the game from a wild, almost barbaric pastime into a scientific sport. Yes, of course. Yes, it's the British who changed everything from barbarism. No offense to my British watchers. I mean, I also have British roots. Isn't that funny? You know, my father always says, I forget which country, Arab countries, India. The palaces of India had indoor plumbing, while Britons were still living in huts. But yes, of course, it was the Britons who civilized everything. Okay. I say that without malice. I love being a member of the Commonwealth. Okay, let me see. Where was I? I just want to get to the good stuff, girl. I don't care about all this. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Oh, Timothy. I hear a little rip. Oh, hold on. He better not be at my 1984 magazine. 1 second. Look at him. He was just chomping away. Look, chomp, 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 chomp. On my Canadian Living Everyday Cookbook Special from 1984. That's the year my parents were married. Look at this. You know what? Tell me if you would be interested. Like, I have tons of like magazines from the 80s, the 90s. Do you think it would be fun if I like adjusted my camera so that it was just like my hands in the magazine and we could just like flip through and see what we find and all these? I mean, I just think that's fun. I like those kind of videos for just like relaxing and drifting off to sleep. Okay. Anyway, I'm just distracted. What time is it? All right, I gotta hurry. How many more? Of course, this is the long chapter. And it's just like this and this. 600 BC. All right, so much for the history lesson, right? Browsing around in my local library, I unearthed the invaluable information that if you want to go and buy a polo pony, you'll need around 7,000 pounds in your pocket. Remember, this is in 1993. You should look for one that has been raised in Argentina, Ireland, Australia, America, or New Zealand. Don't ask me why. Maybe it has something to do with the grass. A yellowing sheet of paper warned, great care should be taken that it has no hackney blood in it. Oh, Lord. He's eating a dust cover. I just can't even be bothered right now. That it does not bend its knees too much when trotting, that it does not have a sour-looking head or a sunken eye, and that it is not too long in the back. Armed with these priceless facts, I felt better equipped to face the Major, whose reputation as an authority on the subject had crossed the Atlantic and the whole of America to the polo fields of California. Quite frankly and understandably, I was as nervous as a thoroughbred. I had the rolls polished until I could see my reflection in the door as I slipped in behind the wheel and drove through the gates of Gablecott. I had tried to look as businesslike as possible with my dark hair tied back and very little makeup, skirt just above the knee, high heels but not too high. I had decided on a smart Chanel suit in navy blue over a white silk blouse, giving what I hoped was an impression of elegance and efficiency. You know what? It's so annoying to me that she's like, oh, the prestigious fields of polo. As though she's an outsider. Meanwhile, she's trotting in here in her rolls in her Chanel suit. Like, baby, you're not one of us. Okay. But I would love to see that suit. I wish there was a picture because I bet it was gorge. Chanel in the 90s. That's when they peaked. It was all downhill from there. Okay. Have you seen Chanel lately? It beggars belief. It's, Coco Chanel would be horrified. Okay, Chanel. Giving what I hoped was an impression of elegance and efficiency. All my papers were folded into a smart Louis Vuitton leather briefcase with a combination lock. I only had a rough idea of the club's location, so I allowed myself plenty of time, too many in fact, as I found myself at the opposing gates 20 minutes early. I drove past and spent the next quarter of an hour meandering slowly around the picturesque country lanes of Ascot, enjoying the autumn scenery and trying to control the butterflies fluttering around in my stomach. Finally, it was 0 hour. Here we go, girl, I muttered to myself. Taking a deep breath, I turned the rolls in through the gates and slid her smoothly under the curved wrought iron insignia announcing RCBCP, Royal County of Berkshire Polo Club, in a huge half moon above me, and up the drive to the clubhouse. The tires crunched on gravel past neat white painted fences. I took in clipped lawns, a long, low red brick building which looked like converted stables, with blue painted doors and a sloping Spanish tiled roof cloaked with lichen, and skylights that let the watery autumn sunshine through. And on the white timbered facade above the main door, a clock with its hand pointing to the hour of noon. I was spot on time, and I smiled quietly to myself as I noticed faces at the windows watching the great black Rolls strut her stuff in the drive. This was the same drive that Prince Charles must have used regularly on his jaunts to the polo field, the place where royalty rubbed shoulders with some of the richest men on earth, the inner sanctum of the privileged few. Okay, but here's the thing. I'm just confused because if this is really the inner sanctum, then I would think that a Rolls Royce is not big news to these people. It's like you can't have it both ways, Leslie Player. You can't say that this is like the playground of the rich, the playground of the royals, and that you're somehow an outsider. But all of these people who, like, even though she's privileged, she's saying that this is yet another level of privilege that hangs out here. And yet her Rolls Royce is like, people are like, oh my God, a Rolls Royce? What? Who's here? I don't buy that. I think that's baloney, because I think that if that many super wealthy people are hanging out at this place, you wouldn't bat an eyelash at a Rolls pulling up here. You'd be like, yeah, of course a Rolls is pulling up. What do you think? I call BS. Okay. Like, I just can't imagine the faces at the window like, oh my God, at the Rolls Royce. Come on. It's not like she's pulling up to McDonald's. It's not like she's pulling up to my place. I'd be like, oh, whoa, babe, come quick. It's a Rolls Royce. Okay, the inner sanctum of the privileged few who have never seen a Rolls Royce before. And I was going to do my damnedest to become part of it. Just what can we do for you? Major Ronald Ferguson took my hand in a firm but gentle grip. Then he sat his big frame down behind the untidy desk and smiled at me encouragingly. Here's the thing that I can't get over. Let me look for a picture. Well, there's one right on the cover. How could a woman go to bed with Ron Ferguson? Because he looks like a male version of Sarah Ferguson. Like, I just can't get over how much they look alike. I feel like there's maybe a little bit of insecurity in this girl because I'm looking through pictures and the one on the cover is very, very flattering, but like she's no great beauty, And so she's going on and on. I mean, far be it for me to say someone's no great beauty. Like, have you looked in the mirror lately? But my point is I feel like there may be some insecurity. There may be a little bit of overcompensation because, think about it. You're this girl. I would want to set foot in those polo club things. I would look like a potato. I look like a potato right now. Can you imagine me setting foot on those fields and all those women with all their millions? And, can you imagine? Because, like, these women, a lot of them, they have nothing to do, because they come from money. Their man has money. They don't got to work. They probably never worked a day in their life. And so, a lot of them. And so their full-time job is being pretty. We could all be gorgeous if that was our full-time job and we had millions, right? So imagine this girl, she does come from privilege, but she's obviously, like, she still had to work. Like, she still had to do some work. And suddenly you're surrounded by that level. Like, that's overwhelming. I mean, she's cute as a button. I think she's like the girl next door is what I'm trying to say. So I think it would be very overwhelming to be trying to find your place in this sort of world. And so I feel like maybe that's where some of this comes from. Anyway, I don't know if my camera's going to show it to you nicely. Not very nicely. Oh man, eventually I'm going to get a nice camera. Well, you can kind of see, like, I think she's adorable. But she's the girl next door. She's not a glamour puss. She's pretty. But she's too pretty for that guy. Anyway, I'm just trying to find some compassion, I guess, is what I'm on about. Because I'm awfully hard on her. I mean, I think her writing voice is kind of like the front image. Like, obviously, what are you going to do? You're going to pick the most glamorous photograph of yourself. So that's like her on the front. So she looks terribly glamorous there. Guys, I think I might cut bangs today. Every little wispy bangs. I can't get it out of my head. And these are bangs, but they're growing out. They've grown out, I should say. Anyway, look at this guy. Look at her. She's as sweet as a, newborn babe. And this guy with those eyebrows, can you imagine? Can you imagine those looming over you in the sack? Heaven help us. What did Queen Victoria say? Shut your eyes and pray for what is it? Pray for the empire. I couldn't bear it. But don't him and Sarah they're like little carbon copies of one another. Good Lord, they look so much alike. It's unbelievable. He never had to doubt her paternity. Okay, what time is it? Oh, I'm late. Just what can we do for you? Major Ronald Ferguson took my hand in a firm, gentle grip. Then he sat his big frame down behind the untidy desk and smiled at me encouragingly. My first impression was of a tall, kindly man, benign and balding, with thick, gingery eyebrows that rose at the ends, with above eyes that were a commanding dark blue. He was casual yet impeccable in a light blue Lacoste cardigan and slacks, with a white shirt and tie that looked a little out of place. Much later, he would tell me that when he saw my Rolls-Royce approaching the windows, he nipped out to a changing room and put on the tie. Well, Major Ferguson, I began. As I explained, I want to organize the very first International Ladies Polo Tournament next year. He raised a hand. Yes, I know, but aren't you a little premature at this stage? I mean, next season is a long way off. That's the whole point. Nobody has done this before. I want it to work, and the more time I can concentrate on it, the better chance we've got to make it a success. If anything, I wish I had more time. He sat back and considered me, fingertips tilted together under his chin. I had to admit that at first sight, Major Ronald Ferguson's presence was formidable, quite overpoweringly so, and I could sense a forceful personality that was almost palpable. If I could win this man over, I instinctively felt the other barriers would go down like Skittles. Skittles? Does she mean the candy? He was saying, have you ever done anything like this before? You know, it's a jolly difficult thing to stage a tournament. It takes an awful lot of thought, experience, and expertise. I unlocked my briefcase and handed the blue folder across the desk. These are more detailed plans. I eyed him directly and found myself speaking louder than I intended in that quiet room. Look, Major Ferguson, this is going to work whether I hold it here at the grounds or at the guards' ground. You know why I'm here. I know I've never done anything like this before, but we all have to start learning somewhere, just like you did once. I believe in this. It's my dream. My fists were clenched. All the frustration I had felt at being turned down so many times by people who, as far as I was concerned, just didn't have my vision, started to boil over. The Major put on a pair of spectacles and glanced down at my dossier. Then he looked up again and regarded me judiciously, and not without a hint of amusement. Well, young lady, his voice had lost some of its formality. I can see you mean business. Let me tell you, I'm impressed, very impressed with your presentation and enthusiasm. I'm not sure if you are aware of it, but I was actually responsible for starting the men's international tournament, the Cartier, 22 years ago. He paused, letting the words sink in. I hadn't known it, but the words were music to my ears. Already, I knew what he was about to say. I was right. I can see this as an opportunity to start again. Something novel, something new. Major Ferguson's eyes were positively glowing, and I found myself smiling with him. It was like seeing someone come alive in front of you. I had no idea then, but for some time Ronald's life and career had been floating like the Marie Celeste, a dead ship without a rudder or a charted course, drifting through dark seas with no real aim ahead. Later, he would take my hand and tell me it was as though I had woken up from a long sleep when you came into my life that day. I was given a brand new life and another chance. For now, he stood up, took my hand with renewed vigor, shook it hard, and said, I can tell you right now, I'm all for this. I need to talk to my chairman, but I'm right behind you and will recommend to him that we stage your tournament here. The chairman was Brian Morrison, a millionaire music publisher who made his own waves in the business as entrepreneur to former Wham singer George Michael, to Pink Floyd and the Bee Gees. Brian had met the Major 15 years previously when he joined the Guards Polo Club and still laughs when he tells the story of that first meeting. Ronnie looked at me up and down and said, Well, you can play chukkas, but I don't want you around at the weekend when there might be royals about. It seemed that Brian, a self-made millionaire, fell out with the stuffy confines of the Guards, who were strictly old money, and felt that your breeding always meant more than your bank balance. He quit the club to open his own, and, in passing, to open up the game to people who would never have been accepted by the old guard, pointing out, why play under someone else's harsh rules if you can form your own? A sentiment with which, when I heard it, I entirely agreed. I started to stutter my thanks, but the Major waved them away. As he escorted me to my car and looked on approvingly as I got behind the wheel, he said, I will call you, Miss Player, as soon as I have news. Then we must arrange for you to meet the chairman. The very next day, he phoned my office. Yes, the gruff tones came down the phone, and I could hear the excitement in them. Brian Morrison is very interested. When can you come up and meet him? The private boardroom at the Royal Berkshire, as the club is known in polo circles, is a compact room overlooking the stables, with paintings of ponies and riders dotted around the walls. The showpiece is a gigantic mural along one wall depicting the Major, Brian Morrison, and Prince Charles sitting on their ponies with the number 1 ground as backdrop. Brian sat on one end of the boardroom table, wreathed in cigar smoke, surprisingly casual in jeans and t-shirt. Every time I saw him, he seemed to have a permanent halo of smoke around his head. He was a careful, compact, clever Cockney in his late 40s, whose quiet manner disguised a shrewdness that had taken him to the top of the notoriously unstable music business and kept him there ever since. I sat beside him, facing the Major. I've heard a lot about you, Leslie, Brian began. He shuffled my notes on the table in front of him. You've certainly impressed Ronnie. I've organized many tournaments in my time, and I can tell you exactly how you should do this one. Just 1 second. Okay, so the Silver Screen Holidays is now uploading. It's going to be up in about, let me look. It says it has an hour and a half to upload. I'm just hoping there's no copyright issues because yesterday was so disheartening. Can't even tell you. All right. Let's keep going. We're almost done this chapter. He leaned forward and tapped an inch of gray ash into an ashtray. Now, listen carefully. I'm going to break the rules for you. We usually take a fee and do the organizing ourselves, but for the first time, I am prepared to let you organize this on your own and hold it here. Our reputation hinges on your making this work, you understand? I nodded dumbly. The implications were only just starting to sink in. This is a very offbeat idea, but I get the feeling you can do it, and that you'll make a success of it. The part we'll play is to tell you how we would run things, and be here if you needed help. I mumbled my thanks, but Brian was already bending his mind to the details. This was the breakthrough I'd been longing for, and I owed it to the man sitting opposite me. My eyes must have been shining when I looked at him, because the Major grinned back at my delight, and gave a little nod in return. You've got teams coming in from all over the world, Brian said. There's a recession on. You'll never be able to sponsor the whole thing. I suggest you sponsor each team individually to the tune of, say, £8,000. Offer them a complete package, including hotel, transport, hospitality, the works. I could see his mind racing and popped in brightly. You mean £2,000 a player? Is that enough? You'll find out, said Brian. It's a start anyway. The charity involvement would help bring in the teams. and I hoped they would contribute their own generosity when it came to fees. I mentioned the Save the Children Fund. The chairman's face brightened. If they want to come in on it, that's marvelous. All three of us knew that Save the Children meant the seal of approval from royalty, and probably Princess Anne. Brian thought for a moment, then said, "We haven't had them here yet. I think it's a terrific idea. Why don't you let them have the final day, with all proceeds that day going to them?" Across the table, Major Ferguson's big domed head was nodding its approval. It sounded fine to me. Brian said finally, "All I do know is that you should have this tournament stand on its own 2 feet as a commercial venture without relying on a charity as an umbrella. If it works as it should, it could be an ongoing event. As a businesswoman, as I can see you are, you must make a profit from it. If not in the first year, then definitely in the second." God, I thought, this man is brilliant. He had grasped the whole concept immediately and gone down the yellow brick road to a fantasy castle of infinite possibilities. No wonder he had been so successful. "You know," he was saying, "polo is the great leveler. It always has been. When I joined the Guards as a player," he cast a sidelong glance at the Major, who acknowledged it with a grin, "it was a hobby, but it took over my life. Off the field, you might refer to rank, but on the field, it's all down to who's best in the saddle. I beat many of my commanding officers, and they would be the first to congratulate me afterwards." He had made his own club unashamedly geared for the wealthy, from whatever class they hailed. An entry fee of £15,000 separated the financial men from the boys. But, he insisted, they came from across the board, with a whole new breed of young men looking for the thrill of the modern-day cavalry charge. It's the thrill of the game that gets you. Whether or not you rub shoulders with royalty doesn't concern you anymore. He stood up and gave me his quiet, confident grin. "Good luck, Leslie." If there was ground under my feet when I left, I didn't feel it. I was walking on air, and I just could not stop smiling. Major Ron once again escorted me to the rolls and stood in the drive to give me a farewell wave as I drove off. Next day, the first basket of flowers arrived. It's gonna get juicy. All right, we're gonna have to stop there because I've got a million zillion things to do. All right, let me have another look and see what it says here. Okay, well, before when I said an hour and a half, it was an hour and 34 minutes. Now it says 1 hour, 30 minutes left. Oh, I'm just really hoping that it doesn't get blocked. I have one more trick up my sleeve if it does get blocked. And then we'll see. I'm trying my darndest. Just trying my darndest. Anyway, I'll probably be back with you tomorrow because, like I said, my man is a sleeper-inner and I'm not. So, all right, I hope you are having a fabulous Christmas Eve so far. I'll probably post the other one as well, but just for the record, the intro says Christmas Eve Eve. But, what are you going to do? Who cares, right? Doesn't matter. All right. I will see you very soon. That's all I got for now. Okay. I'll talk to you later. Bye.